How's it going, Critter Family? Hope you all are doing well. Today we are going over a video about what types of plants are safe and non-toxic and what plants are toxic for your horses, cats, and dogs to ingest. So, what plants are safe to plant around your animals and what plants are not safe to plant. We're going to start with horses. We're just going to go down the line here, but we're going to look at these are the toxic plants, the poisonous plants for horses. So a lot of these can look very similar to, or some of these can look very similar to other plants, that are safe, so it's always important to understand which one is which and knowing, which is the safe version, even in small quantities for some animals can be deadly. It says many common plants can be poisonous for horses. Some of the most dangerous include oleander sage right here, yew bracken fern, tansy ragwort, water hemlock, and rhododendron nightshade, the deadly nightshade, species red maple trees, and certain types of clover such as Alsike clover can also be toxic. Even common plants like buttercups can be harmful if ingested in large quantities. So this is a picture of, we got some bracken here, we got some Alsike clover, very pretty little plants, foxglove, maple trees, hemlock, we got some yew, oleander sage, oleander, and milkweed, of course. Cute little butterfly on there. So these are just a few of the plants that can be very toxic to your animals, especially when eaten in large quantities. But, surprisingly, most horses are smart enough to know, if they're not starving, are smart enough to know, which plants are... Hi, Ellie. Sorry, Ellie had to, of course, walk across the microphone, get her fur all over the mic and everything. But most horses are smart enough to know which of these are not, if they've been well fed and they're not starving and they're not just eating everything they can find, including their own waste, then most of them are smart enough to know which are not, tasty, which are not safe for them, either instinctively or by tasting it and finding out later. But either way, we don't want our horses to have to find out. So it's, important to know which ones are safe and which ones are not safe. Here's some horse-friendly plants that you can plant if you're interested. We got some African violets, some alyssum, aster. You can read the rest of the list, but in case you're not, we got some blooming Sally, black-eyed Susan. I have no idea what any of these look like. Blue-eyed daisy, cornflower, crepe myrtle, creeping zinnia, daylilies. Got some purple passion vine, some sage, regular sage, not oleander sage. Here's some pictures of a few of these plants here. Very pretty little plants. These are all horse-friendly, safe. That was marigold. These look like cherry blossoms, cornflowers, snapdragons. Got a cute little horse, of course, at a show. Got a bit in their mouth, of course. Many, many, many wrinkles. Very tight bit. I know we're not here for that, but of course, you see a horse and you're going to notice it. Black-eyed Susan. So these are some horse-friendly plants that you can plant, or if you already have planted, or the area where you go riding in has these type of plants. It's important to understand and be able to spot them, even just from a distance, to be able to see which ones are safe and which ones are not, and make sure your horse is not snacking on them. Again, most horses, just know what to snack on instinctively, but we don't want them to find out the wrong way, the hard way. So now we're going to move on to cats. Here's some very similar plants, that are also poisonous to cats that a lot of people will have inside their homes. Lilies are very poisonous to cats, or toxic. I think that's still poisonous. Poisonous is when you ingest something that can harm you. Venom is from an animal that is injected. So a lot of people will say, like, oh, a snake is poisonous. A snake is venomous. A frog is poisonous because if you ingest the frog, then you ingest their poison, just like a plant. But anyway, we got lily, aloe, sagopalm, oleander, amaryllis, cyclamen, autumn crocus, daffodils, and tulips. Many common household and garden plants are toxic to cats and can cause a range of symptoms, from mild gastrointestinal upset to severe organ damage or even death. It's crucial for cat owners to be aware of these dangers and take steps to prevent their cats from ingesting potentially poisonous plants. So I know that lilies are a very popular thing that used to be in our household, and our cat would actually get her face all up in there, get her face all orange because she would go after this pollen right here. And luckily, she never got sick, even though she would chew on these little leaves. Maybe it didn't taste good to her and she didn't really ingest any of it, but we really looked out. And, pretty plants such as daffodils and tulips and all these other really, really, especially amaryllis, really pretty plants here. A lot of people like to have them in their households. So these are some plants that can be, toxic and very dangerous for your cat. But here are some cat safe plants. We got some air plants. We got some orchid, a spider plant, cat grass, of course. But I've been told that there's a lot of people that can, if you don't go to the pet stores, or they try to sell it in, plant stores and stuff, a cat grass lookalike or a catnip lookalike. And the cats just really don't care for it because it's not really a good product. So, just be aware of that. We got a polka dot plant, which I'm surprised. I would have thought this might have been something, or the bromeliad. I'm not going to be good pronouncing these words, but usually plants that are brightly colored or have spots or things like that in the wild, in nature, usually that means that they're. What are you doing? So a lot of times plants that have bright polka dots on them, or let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. So that have, polka dots on them or are brightly colored or different neon colors. Usually if they're colored like this in the wild, they're trying to tell you, hey, I'm poisonous, don't eat me. They try to warn you with their bright colors and certain markings and things. That's why, like, poison dart frogs are brightly colored, and they're telling you, hey, I'm dangerous, don't eat me. So these are some safe plants for your little critters to eat. Of course, everything in moderation. Don't let them eat too much. You don't want them, just because they're safe doesn't mean that you want them eating and gorging themselves on any of these plants. But if they get to them, they're not going to, not going to harm them. But the cat grass, if they have too much, of course, they're probably going to throw up. That's a natural thing for cats to do, is to eat grass and, help their tummy with digestion and get some other nutrients and stuff they might be missing. Hi. If you go out, you're just going to cry again. So now we're looking at some toxic plants for cats and dogs. We got the toxic ones, the Easter lily, the Oriental lily. Sounds like a weird name, but Stargazer lily, the Japanese lily. All these are very pretty plants. The Casablanca lily, tiger lily. Now this is what I'm talking about with this bright color and black spots right here. So I guess the other one that had the white spots is safer. The spotted plant is safer because it has white spots, but when it has black spots on bright colors, like you see bumblebees or you see hornets or wasps or yellow jackets, they are all, yellow with black stripes. That tells you, hey, I'm spicy, stay away from me. So this plant here is brightly colored with black spots. That might say something along the lines of, hey, don't eat me. I am dangerous if you ingest me. We got daylilies, the sagio palm, tulips, oleander, and autumn crocus. And I believe this is oleander sage, unless I'm incorrect. But either way, oleander is still very poisonous. I think it's poisonous to humans as well. So here we have waxflower roses, Phrygia, status, zinnia, Gerber daisy, Boston fern, friendship plant, how cute, that's a cute name, orchids, snapdragons, asters, sunflowers, Easter cactus, zebra, haorthia, Africa violet, hens and chicks, very pretty plant, spider plant, and petunias. Beautiful plants. So these are all the ones that I just listed over here are from the waxflower to the petunia are the safe plants for your cats and dogs. The toxic ones are the Easter lily to the autumn crocus. Obviously, you can do this by a quick Google search, but I just thought I'd mention this. Somebody thought it would be a great idea to make a video about this so that way people can be made aware, in case you don't think to look it up. You can say, well, now is my reminder to look up plants that are safe for my cats and dogs and my horses, and for anything else, ferrets as well, anything else that you have running around in your little house, making sure that they are safe. I'm sure there's also plants that can be poisonous to reptiles as well, which that would be very valid as well for people who have realistic setups for their reptiles. We'll just cover that real quick here. Setting up a reptile enclosure with live plants requires careful planning to both ensure the reptile safety and the plant survival. Non-toxic reptile-safe plants like pothos, spider plants, and bromeliads, and or bromeliads, and make sure to quarantine them before introducing them to the enclosure to prevent any pests or diseases. So you don't want to take them necessarily from the wild if you don't know that, whatever other kind of critters are in there. Make sure that you have, enough adequate light, humidity, and soil, aligned with your reptiles' needs, because reptiles, say a gecko, or a snake or something, there's different types of geckos and snakes, and they all need their own special need of humidity and light. And, some of them are basking, some of them are not. So making sure that the plant will survive within that humidity, and making sure that it's safe for the reptile as well. We don't want to poison them. We don't want to kill them. We don't want to hurt the plant. For people who are really into plants, we don't want to be killing these plants here if they're meant to, coexist with their little reptile friends and give them the most natural life that they could possibly have while in captivity. So that does it for this video. This was just a little quick one. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I got anything wrong. Please do. I'm happy to change that. In my last video, the video about the overweight horse, I talked about giving the horse some straw. So that was actually a mistake on my part. They say you should never give a horse straw of any type. So make sure that you're just giving them maybe a lower quality hay, something that's not super rich. That way they have their guts and their internals working, and they're not starving, but they're not getting as many nutrients and sugars as they would be if they were on a very high quality, like alfalfa type hay, or very, very rich hay. And that should help them, along with regular exercise, to help them to lose weight. So thank you for everyone for the support. Thank you for the kind comments and all that good stuff. Hope you all are doing well. Go say how to do to your little critters. Give them some kind of love that they appreciate. Say how to do for me. And until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.